Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. On June the 1st, I asked Rob Schroeder to become interim chief of the Louisville Metro Police Department, and I was very grateful that he accepted. That's because in his career at LMPD, Rob has earned a reputation as a reformer and an innovator. He led the implementation of police body cameras and the creation of the Real-Time Crime Center, and continued that path of reform as interim chief, helping us implement Breonna's Law, new rules on duty to intervene, restrictions on the use and force of tear gas, as well as working with protesters so we could more effectively balance First Amendment rights with public safety concerns, and moving to expedite a backlog of internal investigations. When Rob accepted the interim chief role, we talked about it being temporary for several months and that he did not plan to apply for the permanent position. We're 3 months into his tenure as chief now, and he's done an outstanding job, but has decided that he's moving forward with plans to retire from LMPD effective October the 1st. He's moving on to prioritize his family and his health and finish his work on his doctorate, and his time at LMPD may not be ending, but his contribution to public safety is not. And when he's ready, Rob Schroeder will make some American City an outstanding chief of police. Rob, thank you so much for the hard work that you've done for our city in this challenging time. Chief Schroeder will be sharing some thoughts here in a moment. Obviously, the process of choosing a new permanent chief is ongoing. We had over 20 people apply for the permanent job by the August 31st deadline, and we continue to follow the process that we laid out earlier this summer for selecting a new permanent chief through our partnership with the Police Executive Research Forum, PERF. That process started with lots of community engagement, and that will continue. We received input from more than 10,000 people who responded to an online survey of qualities they thought a new chief should have, as well as input that came from nearly 24 listening sessions with various focus groups throughout the community, including LMPD employees. Next, we'll work with PERF to review and sort the applicants based on how their qualifications line up with those that the community helped create. Then a small group will convene to review the list, narrow it, conduct interviews, and identify top candidates who appear best suited to lead LMPD. That process will involve the community and LMPD employees by incorporating the input we previously collected, as well as offering them the opportunity to ask questions of the candidates and gauge their responses. We hope to be able to name our permanent chief by the end of the year. In the meantime, we need another experienced, respected, distinguished public safety professional to take on the role of interim chief of our police department. And I'm happy to announce that the new interim leader of LMPD is Yvette Gentry. Yvette is no stranger, of course. She served as Louisville police officer for more than 20 years in investigations, strategic planning, budgeting, and patrol. She became deputy LMPD chief in 2011 and retired from the force in 2014. She later served as our city's chief of community building. Yvette is currently a project director at Metro United Way and will take a leave of absence to assume the interim post here. So thanks to our partners at Metro United Way for giving her that flexibility. We appreciate that. Yvette brings the kind of unique experience and strong community relationships needed to lead LMPD until a permanent chief is in place, and she's passionate about working to help her city reimagine public safety and address systemic racism. Also, just to clarify, she did not apply for the permanent chief job, and she's not interested in that role. I've been a fan of Yvette's for a long time. She's a tireless advocate for our city and for doing what's right, and she has never been shy about offering her advice. I look forward to having her on the team as we move forward in selecting a permanent chief of LMPD. Our city is blessed to have these two outstanding public safety leaders in Rob and Yvette who are willing to step in and take on a very challenging task for the good of the people of Louisville. I want to thank them both now. So let's hear from them. We'll start with Chief Schroeder.
So thank you, Mayor Fisher. Thank you for your kind words and for trusting me as Chief of Police over these past few tumultuous months. I'm grateful to have had this opportunity to serve this city and this police department that I love. I'm deeply proud of the women and men of LMPD, how committed they are to keeping this community safe, how dedicated they are to the residents of this city. Certainly, I've learned a lot of new things in these past 3 to 4 months. I've learned just how many hours you can operate without sleep. I've learned of all the challenges a police chief faces. And I've learned the joys of WebEx press conferences like we're having today. I've also seen a lot of other things that I already knew, and these were underscored over the past few months, starting with my long-held belief in community policing, especially the need to communicate effectively and connect with the people we serve. Since my days working to implement body cameras in this department and working with the Obama White House on the Police Data Initiative, I've known that the better informed our community is about what we're doing and why we're doing it, the better off we all are. I'm proud of my work in helping to start the Real-Time Crime Center and with the implementation of the initiatives Mayor Fisher mentioned previously, including adding officer intervention to LMPD's policy. I look forward to seeing how all these changes will benefit both our officers and the public we serve. The decision to retire was not an easy one. People have long told me that when it's time to retire, you know it, you feel it in your bones, and I certainly feel that today. I'm eager to spend more time with my family, to work on that doctorate, and to see where my next journey along the way takes me. I leave, however, knowing this department is in good hands. I've known Yvette Gentry my entire policing career. She is a capable and proven leader. She is the right person at the right time to move this police department forward until a new police chief is selected. Yvette, you are the right woman for this season. Don't ever forget that. So again, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to serve this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Now I'd like to hear from our next interim, Yvette Gentry. Yvette?
Whew. I stand here today against the wise counsel of the people who love me. One of them, two of them looking at me right now, a few of them. Not because they don't believe that I am the person to stand in the gap right now while a new police chief is selected, but just because there is no search. There's no search for a new mother and for a high school sweetheart. He can find him a new woman, but she won't be me. And their main concern is my health. About 3 years ago, actually October 1st, 2017, I left this place. And I will come back October 1st, 2020 to stand as what I'm going to call chief for a while until they find a permanent person. I will just say to Rob, I want you to have the best transition of life into retirement. It's good over there. It's a thing called rest that you probably haven't had in a while. You know, there's things that can help you sleep, but there's not a whole lot that can give you rest. So I wish you and your family peace and rest and uninterrupted dinners and all those good things that come with the life of retirement. This is a relay. You didn't get the baton in first place, that's for sure. But you're passing it on to me, and it's my job to take it as far as it can go in the 4-6 months, however long I'm here to serve. And I plan to do that. It's been 6 years since I walked into the chief's office. I have not been back there. Still, as I stand here today, have not been back there. So I have to re-immerse myself. I'm not going to stand up here and say I have this great plan. There's a lot that I need to know about what's happening now. But I would just say I am a leader, and I know how to lead. I know this city. I love this city. I'm going to stay here, so I want the next chief. I don't want it to be rushed. I want them to have a good transition. My family's here. My kids are here. I want to make sure this city is restored and rebuilt in a way that is equitable so that my kids can go anywhere they want to go and feel safe. But I caution you not to make this a single struggle issue. I did not apply to be the permanent chief for several reasons, but I made the mistake. I shouldn't say the mistake. I prayed. And even when I wanted to change my mind, God had already told me it was the right thing to do. And so I couldn't turn back, despite all the people that said, don't do that, Yvette. You were sick when you left here. So for all of you that urged me to take this position and try to move the needle, I'm here. I'm not here just to help you unboard your beautiful buildings downtown. I'm here to work with you to unboard the community that I serve so with all my heart in West Louisville that was boarded for 20 or 30 years, and I just could not find the help. So I'm here to help you do that because you promised to help me do that. Everyone had, for the past 4 months, it's been tough. It's been tough on the police officers out there trying to hold the line. It's been tough on the men and women out there protesting over 100 days, seeing things just feel so hopeless. But I would just say that is just a glimpse of how a lot of people have been feeling for a long time, and we can't go back. I think our city is at a point of reckoning that only truth can bring us out of. Only truth can bring us out of. Only truth can take away darkness. We can't just hide behind signs that say Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, all of that stuff. We got to ask ourselves, if Breonna Taylor's name came across an application in this city, would she get an interview? Does your board of influencers and decision makers, anyone who has influence, does anybody look like her? My well-resourced black son, we followed the rules that was put out there. I sent him to the good school. He had microaggressions. He worked 2 jobs to go move into the good neighborhood. And 3 days later, the neighbors were calling in drug dealing complaints. Made him feel unwelcome. I served 20-something years willing to die for a city that wouldn't even make my son feel welcome. And with the same streets, my Dee Mendengo, I loved that girl. And people talked about what a great police officer she was, and she was, and all the hard work she did, and she did. But if she was standing out there right now making a run, would you just say she's some worthless, dirty cop? I mean, there's just some lies that are being told that cannot be told. Our city is going to crumble if we don't start telling truths. So I want to work with you to create a shared vision. I don't have lightning in a bottle. I don't. We've been heading this direction for a long time. But I can promise you what you're going to get from me is this. There will be mistakes. I can't promise you no mistakes. I know you don't expect perfection. I don't believe this community expects perfection. I believe you expect honesty, and I'll give you that. I can't, when we're wrong, I'm going to stand here like a woman, a grown woman, and tell you we made mistakes. And when we're right, and I believe we're right, I'm going to stand here and say we're right even when it's not popular. And what I ask of you is, work with me even when we disagree. Get involved and do your part. Fix what you can control. Fix your systems. This is systemic stuff. And make sure your stated values and missions are real. We got to do some stuff that's real. Hold your peers accountable. Hold your kids accountable. Hold your family accountable when you know they're wrong, even when it's not popular to say it. And I will just say this. I've been seeing a lot of monikers. And I asked Kelly to be here for a reason. She didn't know why. But there's a lot of people who've been fighting for justice inside walls, stages that look like this that people don't even really know. And so when I prayed and I thought about the last time I sat in the office that now Reverend James has, and we were working on pay equity, and my girl Carolyn Miller Cooper was there. She was running the Human Relations Commission at the time. She served in the city for probably 17 years. And she fights for housing equity. All the stuff people say they want now, that's what Carolyn did for 17 years. And whenever we got stuck, we would call Tiara Kavanaugh Wayne, because she was smart. She didn't work inside the city government at the time, but she knew the answers to it. Carolyn died at 51 years old. I don't know what her medical diagnosis was, but I know what she was doing when she died. Tiara Kavanaugh Wayne, 45, beautiful, smart, brilliant. I don't know what her medical diagnosis was for, but it's not a coincidence that she was fighting for justice with us on that day. And lo and behold, me and Carolyn get the paperwork together, and we have to try to get this pay equity for the people who work so hard at Human Relations Commission. And behind this office right there was a girl named Kelly Watson. She was our HR director at the time. Kelly and I was battling cancer. Young, good, hardworking. We had to leave to live. We both felt like we had to leave to live because you just get tired of fighting petty stuff, fighting petty people, fighting people who you love, and fighting for people you know don't love you. So I would just say, let's do something real, Louisville. This is not a promotion. It should feel historical, first woman, all of that stuff. I don't even feel like it's a promotion. It's a calling. I ask God. So I'm not scared. The serpents are going to come. The naysayers are going to come. I'm going to do what's right. I know I'm covered. I appreciate the opportunity. This was not easy for us, Greg Fisher, was it? For a lot of reasons. I know some people around you didn't, but this is going to signal some change. This is a new day's coming. And thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. Beautiful. Thank you for stepping up for your city. Rob, again, thank you so much. With that, we'll be happy to take any questions.
I'd like to remind media, please place your questions in the chat addressed to everyone. Okay, our first question comes from Denny Camper with WLKY. Mayor, why did you decide to go outside the department to find a new interim chief?
We wanted somebody right now that would just represent some independence of viewpoint so that we could move forward with that. And of course, Yvette's got a lot of experience already with LMPD and has done other roles outside of LMPD that I think will make her a good chief now.
The next question's from Courier Journal's Darcy Costello for Yvette. As an outside observer, how do you think LMPD has handled the protests?
I think everybody has some, I will just say I don't know what orders that have been given. I haven't been back in there for a while. I was trained to do things a little differently, and I may do things a little differently, but I cannot really, I can, but I won't necessarily spend this time at this moment critiquing them. That's hard to be out there all those days. Would I do something different going forward in some places? Probably, just because I'm a different person. But I can't imagine. I worked a lot of protests, but not 100 and something days in a row. I haven't experienced that one. So, but there are some things that I believe you do in those situations. And with my experience that I would probably do different. But I do believe that they were taking the orders that they were given and doing the best they could with them.
The next question comes from Wave 3's Chrissy Shank. How long is the contract for Gentry and what are salary terms? I think Chief Hess can take that one.
Good afternoon, Amy Hess, Chief of Public Safety. The question is about Yvette's contract and the terms and conditions. Upon agreement with Yvette, as she mentioned, we asked her to come back for a period not to exceed 6 months. We feel that with the current chief search process, that we'll be able to successfully accomplish that within that time frame. As far as the salary, what we did is we took the last chief's salary, Chief Conrad, and now, of course, Chief Schroeder. In addition, we looked at what Chief Conrad had added as far as a cash out at the end of last year. That's all on our transparency page. And then we factored in benefits, and we came up with an amount of $18,000. That was basically the total amount divided by 12 to come up with a monthly salary.
Chief Hess, we have one more for you. From WLKY's Denny Camper, she said, we've heard from several people that the mayor's office is heavily involved in decision-making at LMPD, but that Ms. Gentry wanted more autonomy as head of the department. Was an agreement made to keep the administration out of LMPD matters?
The agreement that we have is that Ms. Gentry is coming in to be the chief of police for the Louisville Metro Police Department. And in that capacity, she will be expected and is looking forward to making decisions that are in the best interest of the department, the best interest of the city at the same time. As far as any agreements to provide more or less autonomy to the police department, those kinds of conversations were not held to the extent that the police department, of course, represents our community. And to that point, I know that Yvette certainly understands that and will make the best decisions on behalf of both the community and the department.
The next question is for the mayor. Comes from Heather Fontaine with WHAS. She says, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Gentry has been critical of you in your handlings of curfews in particular. How have you talked about how to handle those differences in opinion on how to handle protesters?
Well, as I mentioned before, Yvette has strong opinions, and so what we would do is just talk through the issues, understand the pros and the cons, and then make a decision on what the best way to go would be after that.
Okay. Amina Allahi with WFPL asks, Mayor Fisher, was it important to you to have a black woman in this role?
It was important that we had someone that understood the department, had an outside perspective as well from the work that Yvette's been doing after she left Metro government. The fact that she is a trailblazer in this regard to gender and race, I think, sends a strong message to the community that she brings not only extraordinary police talent, but other signals that we send to the community that they said this is a new day. This is a fresh approach, a unique approach with a woman that has a lot of experience and can bring so many different people to the party.
Mayor, the next question comes from Heather Fontaine with WHAS. She says, this is now LMPD's third leader in just a few months. With so much uncertainty with the upcoming decision by the Attorney General, is there concern about a lack of consistency at a time like this?
Well, the backbone of LMPD is in place, and it's making the day in and day out decisions on how the community is being policed. So they will be with the organization. And so Yvette brings experience with the team already, and so she understands what's happening in that regard, and she will bring that to the party with all of her other skills.
The next question is for Yvette from the Courier-Journal's Darcy Costello. She asks, do you know of any immediate personnel changes you plan for your command staff? Are there any other immediate changes you have in mind?
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to go and make any significant changes serving in a short time frame. I will, I will not be shy about making sure that they're following the orders that I put in place, and that the people around me are doing the job that they need to do. But I don't think it would be serve the city or the next chief well if I just start shuffling around a lot of people. I still think we can get a lot done by using the talent that we have. I might move them around in a temporary place, but I don't think that this is the time or the place to do a lot of shuffling of people around. I don't think that that is the way to help a new chief that's going to be selected to come in here and transition.
Okay, any other questions at this point?
Okay, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Again, Rob, Schroeder, Yvette Gentry, thank you guys so much for what you're doing.